Hello, podcast fam. I am thrilled to share some exciting news. My book, So Grow Lead, is officially live on Amazon. This book is more than just my story of starting a nonprofit and building a peanut butter factory in Malawi. So trust me, the ups and downs of that journey are worth the read. It's also packed with practical strategies to help nonprofit leaders like you tackle challenges with clarity, courage, and a whole lot of heart. If you've ever wondered how to turn your vision into reality, navigate the inevitable hurdles, and build something meaningful, whether in your organization or in your own life, this book is for you. I'd be so grateful for your support in spreading the word. Grab your copy of So Grow Lead in the show notes and on Amazon today. Let's keep sowing seeds of impact together. Welcome to the Lead with Heart podcast, which is dedicated to nonprofit leaders who are passionate about making a difference. I'm your host, Haley Cooper, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on a journey of growth, inspiration, and transformation. At Lead with Heart, we believe that leading with heart means embracing empathy, compassion, and authenticity in every aspect of our work. It's about putting people first, fostering genuine connections, and creating a positive impact that goes beyond numbers and metrics. In the nonprofit world, it can often feel like we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. The challenges are immense, and the road can be lonely. But here, you're not alone. This podcast is a community where we support each other, share our stories, and learn together. Each episode will dive into personal and professional development topics tailored specifically for nonprofit leaders. From innovative fundraising strategies and effective team management to self-care practices and leadership insights, we're here to provide you with practical strategies that you can apply to your life and work. My goal is to empower you, elevate your leadership, and engage your heart in all that you do. I want to help you navigate the unique challenges of the nonprofit sector with confidence and resilience, so you can continue to create meaningful change in the world. So whether you're driving to a meeting, taking a break, or winding down for the day, tune in and join us on this journey. Together we'll discover what it truly means to lead with heart. Thank you for being here. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Lead with Heart podcast. I am so excited to have Dr. Jennifer Dall, a grief-informed neurodivergent specialist and founder of ADHD Holistically. Selfishly, I'm excited for this episode, but I'm also excited for the listeners because I haven't had someone talk about this topic before. Jen empowers individuals with ADHD to transform daily struggles into opportunities for growth and self-discovery. With over 25 years of experience as an educator and a background in ADHD coaching, yoga instruction, and grief education, she brings a holistic, deeply personal approach to helping neurodivergent individuals thrive. Diagnosed with ADHD in her 50s after years of being told she couldn't possibly have it, Jennifer knows firsthand the challenges of navigating misinformation and masking symptoms, especially for high-achieving women diagnosed later in life. She specializes in helping women identify what truly works for them, focusing on practical, quick-fix strategies that simplify daily life without relying solely on medication or a one-size-fits-all solution. Jen is also the author of the highly anticipated book about helping women navigate life with a neurodivergent brain and has been featured in many publications. Well, welcome to the podcast, Dr. Jen.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I would love to know a little bit more about your journey of discovering and becoming diagnosed with ADHD. I can only know from experience that advocating for yourself, especially as women, is no easy feat. And so it is a very brave thing to recognize and advocate for that. So tell us a little bit more about you and your story.
Sure. I think a lot of women in the age group, we spent a lot of our lives not knowing that we had ADHD. We were quiet, or we were silly, or we were distracted in different ways. We worked really hard, but we did not know what was going on. I started out teaching. I taught for almost 25 years, a combination of teaching and being an administrator and working with students with ADHD and other disabilities. And I have gotten my doctorate in educational psychology. I have all of this knowledge, and yet it took a really long time for those little pins to start dropping for me. I would ask people as time went on and I learned more and I saw more, I would ask people, do you think I have ADHD? And they would say, oh, no, you have a master's, you have a doctorate, or you're running a family, or you have a job. There is no way that you do. But I think it was really when I started teaching, I had far more boys. And then as time came on, more girls started getting diagnosed. I started getting more girls in my classes. And I think it was really seeing some of the girls and how they were presenting and what was really going on with them that really started to make me think more about it. You can learn about things, you can read books, but when you see people in front of you, both girls and then women in my age group, adult women, where it was starting to become obvious, I think those were some of the signs that really told me that I had ADHD. And I tried talking to doctors and people about it for a while, and they also said, I don't think so. But I just finally reached a point where it was, I need to know if these are the right things. And so I pushed it with the doctors, and that led to finding out that I do have ADHD and then working through how I wanted to manage it, what I wanted to do about it. During that point of time, my husband died suddenly, and I decided to leave education and go out and do something on my own so that I could help women and help people more just out there in the world, because I know from my experience how it impacts you when other people don't know about ADHD, when they know the things about you, and when you don't even know necessarily about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And I'm so sorry for your loss. And I would love to know, just like to break it down for people who maybe don't understand ADHD or have different negative stereotypes associated with it. What is ADHD? And like you said, you started to see more girls come into the room. How does it present differently for or girls and boys, men and women?
So it's about attention. And it's not that you don't have attention or you can't pay attention, it's how you're paying attention, essentially. I know that still when we think about ADHD, we think about that 8-year-old boy who's all over the place, outwardly doing impulsive things, outwardly not paying attention. And for many people and for many women, because of the way the ADHD tends to hit us and how we've been trained, we're quieter about it. Our minds are still inattentive. We're still thinking about all kinds of different things, but instead of it being outward, we're more likely to be sitting there in a class. We've learned how to look like we're paying attention, do all the things, but it's our minds. The attention in our minds is all over the place. We are thinking about different things. We can make connections all over the place. And so things like that, where the girls, the women are quieter, people aren't looking for it. They're starting to look for it more. But so often, I think a lot of the traits, like there's emotional regulation issues and organization issues, all of that are sometimes for girls put off into like a personality trait. Oh, you're so emotional. Oh, you're so this, you're so that, without realizing that it's not just a personality, it's because of the ADHD. That makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I've heard that deep feeling kids can often be associated with ADHD, of that emotional regulation piece. I would love to get your insight, because I know in the last probably 30 years, maybe even more recently, the diagnosis for ADHD has gone up, for autism, for ADHD, for those on the spectrum. What is the cause of that increase? Is it because there's better tools to diagnose, or is it because there are more people presenting with the signs?
In my opinion, I think there's more information out there. It is getting out there. Are there more people? That's really hard to say, because I think in the past, like we talked about, it was a personality, or boys will be boys, or whatever, that kind of thing. Whereas over the past, say, 30 years, whatever you want to say, there's been more research. Research takes a while because they have to do the research and then they have to pull it together and it has to be vetted and out into the world. So research that was done 20 years ago takes a while to get through to people, and it goes to people who know about it, doctors, educators, and then it takes a while to filter out into the general public. I know that a lot of people, a lot of adults, find out when their own children are referred and assessed for ADHD. The process of answering questions, looking at ways of being, behaviors of their kids makes them say, oh, that's me, or that's my partner, or that's my sister. And so you start to see these connections. One person's diagnosed or looked at, and you start to see, oh, maybe that actually has something to do with you. So in that way, there's been more research. And then you just look how information is put out nowadays. When you think 30 years ago, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have social media, we didn't have podcasts. So it could be really hard to get information. And now you could just go Google symptoms and get, do I have ADHD tests and articles and references and books and all kinds of information to then go do some of the research on your own. And I also think that some doctors, some medical professionals are starting to be a little more aware of it.
Yeah, definitely. Google has diagnosed me with a lot of things that I don't actually have. It can be both a good place and a scary place to go down the rabbit hole of, well, now that we have the foundation of signs of ADHD, I think a lot of people can relate. Is it ADHD or is it just life? Is it the overwhelm and chaos, like feeling overwhelmed, constantly not knowing where you put your pen or for me, it's my cell phone. I lose my cell phone every 5 seconds. Or starting projects you never finish. But is it ADHD or is just life being lifey? Can you break down like the subtle, sneaky ways and signs of ADHD in women over 40 and explain why traditional hacks, a color code like Motion, which is a great calendar and program, but why those just don't stick?
Okay. The first part of your question again was, tell me again, I'm sorry.
Is it when life feels like chaos and you're like, I keep misplacing my keys, I'm constantly overwhelmed, I start projects and I never finish them? Is it because you get distracted because you have kids or multiple other things going on? Or is it life just lifing or is it ADHD?
So I think one of the things that I would really look at is how long, if you really sit down and you're quiet and you're honest with yourself and maybe talk to people who knew you when you were younger, has whatever it is, losing your cell phone, being distracted, being disorganized, not finishing projects, has that always been there in some form or another? Whether like you really saw it as an ADHD trait. Maybe like for me, the habit of starting projects, going all in and then putting them down. This did not just start when I turned 30 or 40 or whatever. Like when I really look at it and I'm honest, I always did that. So life, that's not so much lifing. So technically, it should be something that you've always been experiencing, whether it was really upfront and you knew it or not. And that can be the hard part. Even with some of the diagnosis, they want to be able to see school records or go back and talk to people. And that gets really cloudy for all kinds of reasons. Not to mention it was a long time ago. Yeah. School records are hard to come by. And what people knew there, I talk about how even your teachers or your parents, they didn't know what they were looking at. So their recollection and their ability to be able to help you might be a little off. So back to your question, is it lifing or is it ADHD? I would take a really good, strong look. And if you can and you want to, talk to a doctor about it, a professional, kind of identifying, has this always been there? Is this something that I've always done? Or is there some stressor, or is raising kids in a post-pandemic world with all of this stuff going on and working, is it just too much? If it's on that scale, it's just lifing, theoretically taking some of that off your plate or finding some supports should help with that. Whereas if you've always had these traits, then that's more likely to be the ADHD. And then you asked about the typical suggestions, color coding, calendars. For some people, they work. And for a lot of people, they don't, or they work for a little while. What I really like to talk about is finding what works for you now, because where you're at in this particular point in time with whatever's going on, color coding might work, but then at some other point, it might not work. And so I really like playing around with all the different ideas and finding 1 or 2 things that really work for you, because we're all different. Also, if your sister or your son or your husband or your boss has ADHD, it's going to show up differently. there's a tendency for people to say things like, well, my sister uses this, so you should do this. And it might work. It might not work. But the way that the ADHD impacts us in conjunction with our whole lives before us, everything that's happened, really determines whether something works or not. So I think having an open mind and trying, just really being able to try. And if it doesn't work, knock it down on yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're able to give yourself grace in the experimentation of what works for you. And I know a lot of ADHD relies on the dopamine center as well. So, maybe a color code does work for you because it hits that dopamine, or I love a checklist because I love to check things off. And that's like my little dopamine high of the day. And so, yeah, giving yourself grace, but experimenting in what works for you. And you mentioned like maybe people in the workplace might present different signs. And earlier you talked about in your introduction about masking. And I feel like starting from a young age, like I've seen it with my kids now in elementary school, from school into the workplace isn't designed for kids and adults that have brains that maybe operate a little bit differently. So how can you not only advocate for a diagnosis where it just, I think, gives you some clarity or validation, but also being able to advocate in the workplace and bring it up without fear of judgment?
And that's hard. That can be really hard. I think the key part is knowing yourself and spending some time figuring out what does and doesn't work for you and what you actually need the support on. Sometimes with ADHD, we need a quieter place. Other noises are more distracting. So looking at where you work and what you're doing and trying to think of proactively solutions that could help. Or I'll be out with somebody and I'm talking to them. And if there's a lot of external noise, it's not that I can't hear, like it's too loud. It's that I'm picking up on all the other stuff. I'm not eavesdropping, but all this is coming in. And so that also comes into the workplace. If you're in a more open place or a space where there's a lot of noise or other conversations, it may just be really hard to filter those out. So is it headphones, some sort of noise blocking? Is it being able, when it's really bothersome, to go to a quieter place to work? But figuring out what really is impacting your work and what are some solutions. Obviously, you probably want to start with the least invasive. You don't want to tell your boss you need an entire floor to yourself somewhere. That's not going to fly. But looking at what's really slowing you down. Maybe it's you need directions written down, or you write them down or emailed. I would carry a pad of paper, and I would also, if it got complicated, I would say, great, can you email me? Because what you're saying to me is in and it's out, and I don't remember. Whereas if I have an email or I have these really good notes and I've shown you, okay, so you want me to do this, I remember, it's clear, and it hasn't really hurt anybody. It hasn't taken that much time from anybody, and everybody's clear on what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. So what are those little ways that your ADHD is impacting your job, your work, that you could ask for some support and not just turning it over, like telling your boss, you have to fix this for me, but knowing enough about yourself that this is what would help. And then those carry over into your relationships, into everything.
Yeah, I think it's definitely being clear in any relationship, whether that's personal or in the workplace, really having that self-awareness and understanding yourself and how you operate, which is kind of a lifelong journey. But if you have the right people in your place, they're willing to learn with you and adjust accordingly. And
they're not to the extent that you can really look at, is this the right place? Is this the right setting, the right career for me? Because sometimes we get pushed or thrown into things because they're there. And maybe that's not what's really best for you.
Yeah. I have a question about, I think going back to the ADHD, is it life just lifing? I recently read that our attention spans have gone down from 7 seconds to 3 seconds. So is that also a contributor to people's having difficulty with attention span and the way that they're able to do focus at work?
It definitely could. I've read similar things. I'm not 100% sure where their research is from or what they've done. One of the things with ADHD is if something you're really interested in, your attention span isn't really lower. I don't know if you found that. If it's something you're really interested in, you can hyper focus on, your interest is completely there, right? Your attention. It's things that you don't want to do, things that aren't as interesting. So I think that definitely with all the things that are going on, our attention spans in general have gone down, and the need for it. Maybe in school, you're given more breaks. Teachers try to do more interactive things than just lecturing for a whole time. I think maybe there's a greater understanding in society to break things up and make it smaller. But it still goes back to figuring out what you need, whether your attention is lagging because of ADHD or our screen time, or you're tired or life, all these factors. If you find that your attention is lagging, then how is that showing up and what can you do about it? Because I think that's more important. This is causing me some trouble. What can I do about it?
Yeah, I like that. There's always a solution to the problem that we're having. And we talked about individually how you can support yourself and advocate for yourself, but how does recognizing and supporting ADHD in the workplace benefit the organization as a whole?
Well, from what I understand, losing people is expensive and disruptive. So if you can keep people and they are staying there and you've trained them and they're part of your culture and your business and they're doing well and they're happy and they're making customers happy, depending on what your business is, that is going to be better for your bottom line and for the other people around you. I know when I've worked in places where there's a lot of turnover, that's hard for the people who are still there. So in the business, it's just going to make a better place. Not to mention a lot of bosses, owners, HR people, they themselves may have ADHD. And so they may get a better understanding of themselves and how to be better at their job, at their role, by knowing how they communicate better, by knowing what they need. So there's just a communication, there's an openness within the company that we all work a little bit differently. And if we do these things, then it's smoother. People are happier, people will stay, they are more productive. They're just happier, better people.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it provides that safety to show up as your whole self. And if you're able to operate within the way that you best function or your best productivity, that's going to benefit the organization and you're going to excel as long as you have the space to do so.
Right. And then you always have to feel safe, and you would hope that you would be in an organization that would support that and be willing to learn.
So I know that there's a lot of coaching programs out there, but you talk about how sometimes long-term coaching programs can be overwhelming for people with ADHD. And you have specialty. Your specialty is life hacks that actually work for these types of brains. So I would love to know, why do long-term coaching programs often feel overwhelming for women with ADHD?
So what I found is that it's a year. A year is a really long time for anybody. And for people with ADHD, it kind of spreads things out. Whereas if you're working on shorter term, you're working on a specific issue, a specific need, it's a goal, there's a deadline, something specific to focus in on, and you can get accomplishments and feel like you've had some successes. Whereas with long-term coaching problems, and a lot of them are great, and a lot of them work well for people, it's just not my preference. And the people I tend to work with tend not to work best like that because you forget about it. It spreads out. It's this long, unending thing. I run marathons. They're very long. And if you just look at the whole thing, you kind of get overwhelmed, but breaking it up. So breaking up the skills, breaking up, this is something I really want to work on. This is something I'm struggling with. This is what I need help with right now. Into just a few, 3, 4 sessions a month and feeling that success, because then that can build on it.
Imagine a fundraising partner that not only helps you raise more money, but also supports you in retaining your donors. A partner that helps you raise funds both online and on location so you can grow your impact faster. That's DonorBox, a comprehensive suite of tools, services, and resources that give fundraisers just like you a custom solution to tackle your unique challenges, helping you achieve the growth and sustainability your organization needs. Helping you help others. Visit donorbox.org to learn more. Yeah, I definitely think that's what we want, right? Is that like, so this is working. Like, I was talking to a family member the other day about nutrition, and I was like, maybe I should get certified in nutrition for people with neurodivergence, because we don't stick to things unless, and I'm generalizing this, at least for me, unless I see success, right? Like, I need to see that immediate result, which there isn't always that, but some sort of change to be able to stick to a program.
And there needs to be both novelty and then not too many steps where you're going to get sidetracked or lost in doing it.
Yeah, definitely. The overwhelm can have that freeze where you're like, I don't even know what to do next. Can you share some quick actionable tips for tackling everyday ADHD challenges? I guess, what would those challenges be? And then any actionable tips that you have?
So one can be finishing things, getting things that you need to do done. And something that I really like is a combination of two things, is a combination of what is body doubling and the Pomodoro method. And I know these don't work for everybody, but for me, and especially together, and for people that I worked with, they work well. Pomodoro is the idea that you work for a specific period of time and then you take a break. And by training my brain to do this, it's been helpful. So setting a timer for 25 minutes, I'm going to work on this for 25 minutes and get some done. Or something I don't want to do that can take a really long time. Like, I have billions of emails. I would just spend 25 minutes and just make it done. And then I take a break, and then longer breaks. And then body doubling is working with somebody else. This is one of those examples that when I look back, even in school, I like to do this, but I didn't know what it was. And it's working with somebody else, but on your own things. So what's good right now with Zoom is that you can do it really easily with somebody who's somewhere else completely. You both log in, you take a couple of minutes to say hi, and then I say, I'm going to pay these 5 bills, and the other people are going to do their things, and you don't talk, and your brains see each other working, and then you take a break. So for me, those two things together have been life-changing, and I've also realized how much, in certain ways, I did them before I even knew what I was doing, and that if I had instituted it more, it probably would have been better. But that's something that I find helpful. And sometimes you're so distracted, or you so much don't want to do it, that your little work time is 5 minutes. Okay. So for 5 minutes, I did it. And like we talked about, finding success in that and giving yourself grace, because it's better than sitting there all day and not doing anything.
Well, and then you're going to ruminate on it. That you didn't get it done, right? Yeah, I'd seen that a couple of my friends have hosted productivity dates where, like, body doubling, right? Like, you're there, maybe you have shared food, a drink of your choice, and you literally do the boring stuff, pay bills, or stuff that you've put off, but you are both doing it and holding each other accountable, and you're spending time together. Like, maybe you're chatting in between. But I thought that was such a genius idea, because we always complain to each other, like, we don't have time to get this done, and then we don't have time to hang out. And it's like, well, you could combine both, and then you'd be happy.
Yeah, and it can be together, or it can be over Zoom. That's the great thing with this now. And breaks. We're going to do it, and then we're going to talk and go get a glass of water or whatever for 5 minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are some of the things that I find really helpful in breaking things down into something where I feel like, oh, I actually did something today.
Yeah. And based on the Pomodoro method, I've read varying different degrees of timing. Is it really can you really get stuff done in 25 minutes? And I've heard it's like you chunk it in 25 minutes, take 10 minutes off, do another 25 minutes. I've also heard you do 2 hours blocks of deep work where it takes you 15 minutes to get in and then 15 minutes transition out. Like, what is the best timing when it comes to doing that focused work?
I'm going to say the best timing is whatever works for you. And part of that is whatever you're trying to do. But I know for me, 2 hours sounds like a really long time. And I'm going to be honest that I'm not going to work for 2 hours. I think I've gotten better at breaking things down into the 25-minute blocks. But that's taken practice. And also then, again, grace in that if I think, okay, I'm going to do this for 25 minutes and 25 minutes are up and I've gotten half of it done. Okay, it was an experiment. I need more time. So allowing that. And I think it also depends on how you're feeling that day, what you're doing, their obligations. I think 25 is a good in the middle, but it's going to totally depend on you. And some people, and maybe if you're doing certain work where you don't want to be interrupted, I might go more for 50 or 55 minutes if I was really writing something and doing some research. And every time I got up and moved, it disrupted me. But I think playing around with what works for you for that task is what's important. And that goes back to you asked why some things don't work. Well, if you're just going to say, well, it has to be 25 minutes and it has to be 5 minutes. Well, that's probably not going to work for even one person, even for me every day. That's not going to work. It needs to have some flexibility.
Yeah, I think that's so important not to have that. If it doesn't work, everything is, broken, right? Like if it doesn't work, that's okay. Let's look at the data of what didn't work during this time and how can we adjust to better suit our needs. Are there other lifestyle changes that people with ADHD might use in their toolkit to support their needs?
There's all kinds of things. Again, depending what your needs are. I find that finding a way to start the day strong can make all the difference. And part of that is then ending the day strong. So if I have my plan for tomorrow, my basic plan and my things set up, even if I go to bed late, if I do the bedtime revenge procrastination thing, or I'm up reading or on TV, that starts the day off well. And so thinking about your productivity time, your daily biorhythm, I guess you might say, when are you best? When do you think best? When do you work best? And trying to prioritize that. Maybe it's after lunch. Maybe the morning doesn't work, doesn't matter. But if you eat a really good lunch, you can get in 2 or 3 or 4 really good hours after lunch, then prioritize that. And so again, playing with it, experimenting with it. What works for me? If you have other things, that's going to impact it. But what works for you, trying things, and then trying to commit to it and celebrating, because I know I feel better. I feel so much better on those days when I've done that.
Yeah, I love that. What's one small change someone who might be listening to this could make today that would have an immediate impact on the way that they show up?
I'm going to say, accept yourself. I'm going to say, figure out something, think about something that you do well, some part of your ADHD that's great. You probably come up with great ideas. You probably are very creative, and celebrate that. Thank yourself for that. Say, yes, I may do all these other things, but I can come up with really good ideas, and own it and be proud of it. Which that mind shift, because other people may say, oh, you're scattered, you're flighty, you have too much, you're never focused on something. Well, but also I can come up with all kinds of great ideas, and then we could find one that works.
That is so good. It sounds so simple, but sometimes it's the hardest one to do, is to accept yourself and accept it as a strength too. There are a lot of superpowers that come with ADHD, and some of the most successful people in the world have ADHD. So,
yeah, a lot of the most creative and entrepreneurs and people who go out and do those things because you just have all these ideas.
Yeah. And then you have the hyper focus to be able to execute.
Yes.
I love that. Well, this has been such a fun conversation. If people want to learn more about the work that you do, where can they find you?
They can go to my website, ADHD Holistically, has the information. I'm also on Instagram, ADHD.holistically. So there's information there. And I would start with either one of these. A lot of what I'm working on is short-term tools that will help you work through specific problems, specific things that you feel like you need to work on right now. And I would love any questions, or if anybody wants to talk to me or anything, reach out.
Thank you. We will make sure to link to all of that in the show notes. Well, thank you, Dr. Jen, so much for this conversation.
Thank you for inviting me in and letting me talk to your people.
Hey, before you go, want to watch? Yes, watch the best moments from the Lead with Heart episodes? We're sharing the most powerful highlights and takeaways over on our brand new YouTube channel. Yes, we are on YouTube. Just search for The Savvy Fundraiser on YouTube and hit subscribe so you never miss a moment of insight and inspiration. The link is in the show notes as well. Thanks for listening, and as always, keep leading with heart.